Hello, everyone, and welcome back to some of our teaching tips. Okay, so one of the most important things that us as tutors and teachers have to keep in mind is adapting our language, our speech, our tone for our young learners. So, Shirley, what are some of your examples for your lessons where you had to adapt the way you spoke to your lower level learner, obviously, and also your tone and your language?
Well, definitely, Sasha. I think it's very important for us to adapt our speech for lower level learners. Most of the time, they are still at the beginner's level, so we really need to simplify our language. So we can't ask too complicated questions or say phrases that are too complicated. So with lower levels, I adapt my speech. I speak slower instead of just asking, "How are you today?" Word by word. How are you today? Or can you find? And that comes with putting emphasis on different words so that they understand that this is the key word or the main word in the sentence. With higher levels, I do also adapt my language a little bit, but I first assess how well they can communicate in English before adapting. So if I do see that the student has some difficulty, I will either simplify my language or slower my pace to suit the needs of the learners. What about you? What examples do you have for adapting your speech?
Well, I also like to use some of your tips in my lessons, and I also like to use the countdown method for my lower level students, whereby I will count down after asking a question like, how are you? And count down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in order to give them time to respond, because our lower level students take time to respond sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes it's difficult for them to even read a sentence as quickly as possible. So you have to allow them to take their time to read and respond to your questions. And with my higher level students, I do adapt my language, where instead of asking complicated or complex sentences or questions, I would, use longer sentences rather than complicated ones. For example, what did you do today? Or what is your favorite hobby? Instead of asking, what is your favorite sport? Okay, so yes, those are some of the tricks I use in my lessons.
Well, I'd like to share another example I have. I have a teenage student. He is obviously at a higher level. And in one of our lessons recently, he did not know what the word rare meant, okay? So I basically just simplified it. And in order for him to understand, the only way he understood was me saying it's not common, something that's not common, rare, not common. And he grasped that concept so quickly that it just proved my point that you have to adapt, whether it's high levels or low levels, but still remain consistent in age and level appropriateness.
And it is really important for us to adapt our language or our speaking pace or the way we ask a question, because if we do not do so, then our learners won't learn anything or grasp the concept that you are trying to teach them. Okay, so Shirley, I would like to know, why do you think it's important to change your speaking pace for younger, lower level students?
Well, mainly because they are new to speaking English. Most of them are new to speaking English. So we need to speak at a slower pace so that they can hear the word, because in order to understand a word, they first need to hear the word, then understand it, then they will be able to read and say the words. So it's very important to stick to a pace that suits the level and the needs of the student, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. We are trying to cater for all levels because we have to teach them correctly, firstly, and also allow them to independently read for themselves and also to independently grasp the question you are asking them, so that they may be independently able to respond to your question, because that's how we communicate in English. You know, it's not a one-sided conversation where the teacher does everything for the student, but to allow them to give you answers and also be able to independently read and respond to your questions. So Shirley, is there anything you would like to add on to that?
Well, I'd like to find out from you, do you think it's necessary to adjust your tone when speaking to higher level students as you would with lower levels?
I love that question. Well, with lower level students, sometimes it's not really that they're really young. What we mean by lower level is that they take time to respond, they take time to grasp concepts in the lessons. So in terms of my young learners, really young, for example, if I had a 5-year-old to a 7-year-old, I would not speak like I am to you. I would take my tone a bit higher. So be like, how? Be more excited. How are you? And then ask that question. Be more excited, take my tone a bit higher. And then sometimes it happens with higher level students, I do take my tone a bit high, depending on their age as well. So it's not really for lower or higher. I just look at the age and what they like. For example, obviously, if they like music or they like movies, then I would adjust my tone because obviously they will respond well to my tone. And I want them to feel as comfortable as possible in my lessons and make them feel, you know, confident to respond back to my questions as well as to not feel shy. So how about you? Do you change your tone?
Well, for me, it all depends on the age and level of the student, like you said. So if it's an teenage learner who's at a lower level, I won't use a pitchy tone as much as I would with lower younger learners. So it all depends on the age and the level of the student.
That is true. That is true. So I guess we are done. Please remember to always adapt your speech, your language, and your tone for your learners, depending on their age, of course, and their levels. Okay, so that's how we determine. You can determine what their level is by asking them questions. You know, simple questions to see how they respond. Therefore, you will know, should I change my tone? Should I change my pace? Should I change my language? Okay, so from Shirley and I guess that is all. And thank you very much for joining us today. So for me,
thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Become a TEFL expert with IQTEFL. Go to our website at www.iqtefl.com to find out more.